but they're never taught unless they've gone to university and done maybe a business degree, and even then it's probably one module. They're never really taught, how to understand the scoreboards in business, which is your financial statements. They're never really taught how to set financial goals.
Yeah.
They're never taught how to understand their cash flow. So ultimately, they'll be able to get their business to a certain point, but without either bringing someone on board that has those skills to help, coach and work with them, they will never get past a certain point.
Today I am joined with Simon, and we've known each other now for a couple of months. You're the CEO of GrowFactor.
That's right.
I signed up a few months back. So Simon is looking after my accountings and books, absolutely everything to do with finance and just helping take the business to the next level. So I think the natural point really is to start with how you got into that world of accounting and bookkeeping and finance, because for someone like myself, I didn't really have that much of a financial education, and I just wanted to really talk to you in detail about why this is so important for people, even if they don't have a business.
Yeah, so for me, what happened is actually, I think it's about 12 years ago now, my wife, who was a dentist at that time, she's now retired, she was on the phone to her accountant and she was just chasing him for weeks and weeks and weeks just to get a bit of information about what her tax liability was likely to be. How much can she spend, how much can she save, can we afford to go on holiday? Mm-hmm. And like most accountants, I think he was just so overworked and didn't have any kind of organisational system that even though she'd kind of sent 10 or 15 emails and phoned him, probably even texted him, he was just ignoring her. Mm. And at that time I was working, so I qualified at KPMG. I tried to give you the short story, but I do like to ramble on. I qualified at KPMG as a chartered accountant. I then went to Thomas Cook. I then went to Paramount Pictures. And I was just always clock watching. I don't know whether you've ever been in a corporate job, or those of you that are watching or listening that are in corporate jobs and are maybe striving to start their own businesses, and they can associate with what I'm saying. I just didn't feel fulfillment in what I was doing. Mm. Like I would go home at 5:01, which pissed off my employers, but it was because, I was in a group finance function just reporting on massive profits that mostly went to a handful of people at the top, while everyone else was kind of scraping to get by. Mm-hmm. And there was just no reward. Like, why am I doing this? And I knew there was probably something out there for me, like a destiny, if you will. And I had a light bulb go off when I heard Kieran talking or chasing her accountant. Listen, I could do that. Mm-hmm. I'm a qualified accountant. I can work out how to do what he's doing. And I'll actually reply to people's emails and be proactive and care about them. So that was the start of all of it. That's where it started about 12 years ago. And for people that want to start businesses, it wasn't easy. It will never be easy. I had to beg my friends and family to let me do their books for free, so that I could work out, I didn't know how to do a VAT return or a self-assessment or a personal tax return because I was in group finance. Just because you're a qualified accountant doesn't mean you actually know how to deal with those kind of things. So I basically worked for free for a whole year, re-performing all the work that I'd have to do when I charged people to get my confidence up to a certain level. And then I remember my first client was a friend of mine. He had a recruitment agency, and we went out for drinks one night, and just kind of over a few beers, I just said, listen, give me a chance and I won't let you down. And he, took a chance on me. And then from there, my philosophy was do a great job for your clients and just focus on your clients. Don't focus on marketing and content and funnels and all of these things at that stage. If you do a good job for your clients, they will recommend you to other people. And that's where it went. So kind of fast forward now 10 years, we're actually specialists in the wellness industry, which for me encompasses health, fitness and wellness. We don't want to be just for bodybuilders or just for fitness people or just for yoga teachers. We want to help those that help others. And that's our mission now. Like if I can help you build a better business, you're going to be more successful, and ultimately you're going to help your clients in a better way. So in that way, I can make a difference in the world. Now we've got, I think, 20 plus staff across India, the Philippines, and in the UK. And I just love what I do. I really love what I do. Like people ask me, why do you still do certain amounts of client work, and why do you take all the kind of potential client calls? Like I want to interview those clients to see if they're a good fit for us. And I love meeting new people. Even if they aren't in a financial position to come on board as a client, I'll always try and give them advice in those calls and set them on the right direction. And so I guess when you do what you're supposed to be doing, then you've got fulfillment. I don't clock off at 5:01 then. I used to work 6 days a week, 7 in the morning till kind of 8, 9 at night. Just have Sunday, because I forced myself to take that time off, because you need some time to decompress. And I did that for 6 or 7 years before I went down to, now I talk about, I work 20 hours a week and I make multi seven figures and these kind of things. But don't get me wrong, I worked my arse off for 7 or 8 years before I slowly transitioned, when I had my kids, into kind of less hours and leveraging more of my team members. So that was a long answer to it, but that's how I got into it.
Yeah, I think it's something that really is very obvious with people that are living aligned to their values, something that sets their soul on fire.
Yeah.
It's very, very immediately obvious. For me, obviously, it's coaching of a different sort. It's fitness, it's in person, it's online, and taking someone on a journey, which I suppose is exactly the same with accounting, bookkeeping, finance, taking them from the beginning to more of an understanding and watching them grow and develop.
Yeah, it's so rewarding. And I think that especially in kind of the wellness industry, people are really great at what they do. So they're great at prepping clients for bodybuilding shows, or they're great at helping women be more confident, or whatever they're doing. But they're never taught, unless they've gone to university and done maybe a business degree, and even then it's probably one module. They're never really taught, how to understand the scoreboards in business, which is your financial statements. They're never really taught how to set financial goals.
Yeah.
They're never taught how to understand their cash flow. So ultimately, they'll be able to get their business to a certain point, but without either bringing someone on board that has those skills to help, coach and work with them, they will never get past a certain point, because it becomes impossible to manage your financial flows and your cash flows when your business is more than sort of maybe 100, 200K in sales. It's just impossible.
Yeah. So we were talking before we started recording about, your relationship and coaching experience, your mentorship, yourself, for your own development.
Yeah.
Where do you see, and this is a question I ask quite a lot to people, because one thing that I've noticed with people who are very successful is they're not afraid to go and ask questions. They're not afraid to go and seek the help and invest in themselves. So where was your first port of call in terms of, right, now you've decided to set up GrowFactor and you are going into your own business. Where was your first experience with mentorship or even coaching yourself?
So what I did at that time, it just shows how little I knew at that time. I was going to what they call BNI meetings at that stage, networking meetings. So I'd get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, probably 5:30, go to a local hotel, sit round a room, and the idea was you'd stand up, give a 60-second pitch of your business, so would everyone else, and then you'd pass referrals on these little kind of cards, I guess. And it's like 12 businesses working together to help each other grow. And one of the guys in that group was a business coach or a mentor. We got to know each other. I always knew that I needed help with the business skills. Like, everyone should have a coach for everything, in my opinion. So I met him, we started working together, and the way it looked was just every 2 weeks I'd sit down with him for an hour. We'd lay out my business goals. So it'd be part kind of him teaching me, and part of it was, here are my problems. Daryl, his name was at the time, Daryl Woodhouse, I'll give him a shout out. Haven't spoken to him for years. And he would unblock me. Mm-hmm. Okay, you've got this issue, why don't you try this? You've got this issue, why don't you try this? And it's rather than trying to Google or just bang your head against the wall, he's already 10 years ahead of me, and he's giving me the benefit of his advice. So that's where it kind of started. Then I got into group coaching. I used to be part of a chap called Rob Nixon's group coaching program. So he took 8 accounting firms from Europe, the best 8 in Europe, 8 from the US, 8 from Australia. He had these different groups around the world. Quite a cool guy, actually. He built a coaching business based on the fact that he picked the locations of the world's best golf courses, and he wanted to just play every golf course in the world that's on this top 100 list.
That's amazing.
He got these groups together, and I was investing around about £5,000 a month at that time in group coaching. So I'm really serious about, take at the start what you need out of your business, and everything else, reinvest it in your business growth or in your own learning and development. I know I once sat next to who's now my business partner with a Global Accounting Advisors, which is a business that we own with Tony. That business was started by the Australian partner, Paul. His accounting firm grew from 1 million to 20 million in 3 years. I said to him, how did you do it? He said, well, each year I invest $100,000 in my own learning and development, and I implement the best of those strategies into my business. And if I didn't do that, I'd still be making $1 million. And that for me was like, well, I look up to you. You're doing what I want to do. And that's how you got there. You know, I'll take that advice and constantly be striving to learn and develop. I mean, what ended up happening is at GrowFactor, we're really on the forefront, I think, of process and technology with clients. And within our group of 8 accountancy firms, we ended up being the one bringing everything to the table, which if anyone's involved in group coaching, you know, it has to be collaborative. So we ended up stopping that. At the moment, I don't have a coach mentor. I'm looking for one, actually. But it becomes more difficult to find a coach mentor because as you become more successful, because you're really looking for someone who's 2 or 3 or 4 levels ahead of you. Now, if you're running a business that's a multi-million-pound business that is growing and is successful, you need to therefore find someone that's running a 10 or 20 or 30 million pound accounting firm, and then they can mentor you.
Yeah, there's less and less of those.
Exactly.
As you
So
scale
it starts
up ladder, for sure.
but they're there for sure. And Rob doesn't run his group in Europe anymore, so I'd have to kind of fly to the US. But you know, we're looking at the moment.
So you've mentioned Tony, the big Tony Robbins name, a few times, and I want to pick your brain on it because I think Tony was, and I think like most people, I think he was probably the first guy that really opened the door to me in terms of business, finances. So I read his book a few years ago. What was it called? Unshakable.
Yeah, great book.
And it was the first kind of access point to me on investing.
Yeah.
Because like I said to you, my background's working class family. The stock market investments, like that just wasn't on the table for me. So I had no experience of that. You know, I'd always been told, oh, it's too risky. You know, you can lose a lot of money. And then when I read that book and I started to see how simple it can be and how effective it can be with the power of compounding, I was like,
incredible.
Why do not more people know this?
Yeah, why don't they teach it in school?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. So how did you first come across Tony, and then where did that go? Because obviously you said now that you're partners in this business with him. So where did that journey start, and how did that develop?
Yeah, so I think, like you, I read one of his books. Then I think with Tony, at the moment, I think a lot of people have kind of a love-hate thing with Tony. He's so effective at marketing, and he works with Dean Graziosi. He's a billionaire multiple times over. He doesn't need to make any more money. I know for a fact that Tony only keeps doing these events, even though the doctors have told him that he's going to lose his voice at some time, because he wants to help people. And he wants to set up the most effective marketing funnel, which does use all of these different strategies to get people in, because he knows once people get to that event, he will be able to help them, right? It's not about making money. So my belief is actually, on the surface, you could see Tony sometimes negatively, like this high marketing machine looking to always upsell you to the next thing. But that's because he knows the next thing is good for you. That's my opinion, just first and foremost. Secondly, so I read his book. I must have then got, Googling around Tony, probably got some of his retargeting ads because they're so effective. Yeah. Booked a ticket to go to Business Mastery. I don't know why I did that at the time. I think probably just I wanted more involvement and I wanted to go and be around people who had that mindset. I went to Amsterdam to the event, and as I walked into the event, I saw they had this booth called the Global Accounting Advisors. And I thought, what's that? It says Global Accounting Advisors by Tony Robbins. And so I went up and asked the guys, and they said, look, we're basically an alliance of accounting firms from around the world that Tony's handpicked. We've got a US partner, we've got an Australian partner, but we don't have a European partner or a UK partner. So if you're interested in it, come and see us at the break. And I went back to my friends who I'd made, because you make friends when you're at these events. People are so warm and open. And they said, look, you've got to do it. Don't be scared. Don't think about it for now. Just at least go and talk to them. So I really got so much out of the event, went and talked to them. And it took 2 years, I think, of due diligence, speaking to Tony's CFO, so Chief Financial Officer, head of his financial kind of investments, speaking to his lawyer, Zoom call after Zoom call after Zoom call. They audited the heck out of GrowFactor. They wanted to speak to all of our clients. Because if you think about it, Tony picks an accounting firm. He's only going to pick someone if he's 100% certain that they're a good fit for his organization. He doesn't want to pick someone if they go to Business Mastery and they get offered a free tax review, or they get offered, CFO services, which is giving them advice on their numbers, and we don't do a good job. So it literally took 2 years of speaking with them. And then we set up a business together. We formed a business. So we became the UK partner for Global Accounting Advisors. But what actually really happens now is anyone that goes to those events that isn't in Australia or America comes to GrowFactor. So we've now got clients all over the world. I've had clients where I've been on coaching calls and they're in Guatemala or Mexico. And so they'll bring their numbers to me. I'll give them, these are the requirements, this is what you need to bring to the meeting. And I look at their numbers and I talk to them, and then we coach them through how they can make more profit, increase the growth rates in their business, generate more cash, just from looking at their numbers. And we do that over a number of Zoom sessions. So it's kind of like you said, coaching, but around numbers. So that's how I got into it. That was 6 or 7 years ago. So now we've been working for 6 or 7 years. I used to love actually going out to the physical events. Like we spoke about, we've never met face to face.
Yeah.
So I think we met in social media.
Yeah.
Then we spoke on Zoom. You came on board as a client, but we've never met face to face.
Yeah.
And that for me, it's so nice. And similarly, sitting at that Global Accounting Advisors booth, and people are constantly coming up to you all day long for 5 days saying, can you have a look at my accounts and give me your opinion? And that's what we're there for. And that's the only thing I miss right now. Business Mastery and those events are remote. They're online. So people book in for Zoom call consultations, but it's not the same. So I'm hoping at some point he'll go back to hybrid events, and we can get back to sort of meeting people in person.
That's the one thing that I noticed, and I said to you as well when I first got here, that it's just incredible to meet you and see people face to face. Especially over the last few years, because everything has become so remote that it's just a video call. Yeah,
it creates a totally different connection. Like if I can look you in the eye, like you said, I think you can know someone by looking them in the eye. Like, are they really who they say they are?
Yeah.
Are they someone, I honestly think just from looking at someone, shaking their hand and spending some time with them, you can tell whether they're aligned to your values or not. You just get that feeling.
Yeah.
And so I like to try and meet all my clients face to face. And the best clients I have, they're the ones that are actually aligned with my values and my team's values. And they put in as much as they want to receive. And it's kind of a reciprocal relationship, right? I think if you have a relationship with your accountant, or you have a relationship with the guys that you're coaching to be better versions of themselves, if you understand them and they understand you, and you have that human connection, you build loyalty, you build trust, and you can help them in a better way if you really understand them. So I think the face-to-face is important. Like, although my team, so we're a remote organization, we don't have offices. Someone said to me the other day, isn't it a bit shady that you don't have a phone number or an address on your website? Don't people think you're like this phantom organization? I'm like, no, not really. The new generation that come through, they just don't expect that.
Yeah.
We've had it once or twice where we've been talking to, maybe we've been doing some deals for our clients. They're investing in other businesses, and lawyers are looking at, okay, who's this accountant? What are they all about? And they go on our website and they expect to see the address and the number and all of these things. But, once you let them know, and I think it's great. We don't have a big central London office to put those overheads onto our clients, which means our fees can be lower. And I can recruit. Similarly, I guess, when you scale your business, if you choose to scale through hiring coaches, if you can recruit coaches across the globe, or at least across the UK, you can then pick the best people, not necessarily the closest people.
Yeah.
Makes a massive difference.
And that's the beauty of having an online business, because it means ultimately you are accessible to other people. And obviously, as you said, you can choose the people that you work with, because you don't have to choose locally.
Yeah.
And clients, when I first went online 5 years ago, it was amazing, because clients for age, or potential clients, had said, like, can you coach me? And I was like, well, I'm in the Birmingham area, where are you based? And they'd be like, London. And I'd be like, I'd love to help you. Like, we do align. You could get on a call with them and you could really tell that you were going to click and it was going to be a fun project because you knew that you were going to get on with this person. You'd be like, okay, they've got potential. I can take them from A to B, and then beyond, because you just click. And as soon as I went online, it just opened that door to just being able to help so many more people.
I remember when people thought that, PTing, as you'd call it back in the day, was impossible online. Like, how are you going to do that? How do you do exercise correction? How do you do motivation? How do you do this? How do you do that? But actually online everything is possible. And then you can help. I think for me, I always say you want to have a business that gives you freedom. So you're not having to work, you're choosing to work the hours. It gives you money, because we do want to make money at the end of the day, and it creates impact. And so if you can go online instantly, the impact side of that triangle is increased because you can reach more people. Like, that's where I always think about making decisions in my business. Like, is it going to create more freedom? Yes or no? Will it generate more money? Yes or no? Is it going to help me, create more impact? Because at a certain point, you get to the point where, like, I'm very privileged. I've been in this for 12 years though, so don't get me wrong. It's taken me a long time to get to the point where I've got financial freedom, but I don't need to take clients on now to make more money. Like, I have enough money, I have a nice house, I have cars, I can buy what I want without looking at the cost of things. We have nice holidays. I'm not saying this to brag, I'm just saying that it's nice to get to the point where your motivation, because it will be money at the start, it has to be, because you're looking to pay your bills, but if your motivation is genuinely then, can I make a difference to this client? And you're not thinking, please sign the proposal because I really need that money, then you approach things in a totally different way. You'll end up making more money as a result, I think, because you have genuine intentions to help people rather than just trying to, I don't know, I had this coach and he would make us ring a bell when we signed clients, and the bell's still in my office. But I don't ring the bell now because it's not like, oh, I've made a sale. Like Jordan Belfort, is it?
Yeah.
I just didn't really align with me. One of the reasons as well I moved away from that coach, but it just has to be about helping people. And then I think, like you said, if you're intentional and you're authentic, you will grow. It's
almost like Pavlov's dog, isn't it? With ringing the bell. So it creates that kind of association with selling, I guess. So it builds the habits. I think online is interesting because it means that you have to problem solve. Face-to-face is easy. Relatively easy once you get the routine of it, because someone's sat in front of you, stood in front of you, they're performing an exercise. You can see immediately what they're doing wrong. You can correct it in real life time. And then you can have the discussion organically as you're going through a session. How's life going? And that's just natural. It's going. You're
creating loyalty and connection as well at a different level. So you have to, online, I think, you're totally right. It is a different challenge, and as a business owner, it's more challenges. How do you create that loyalty and that human connection if you're not going to be able to meet that client? 'Cause say you're an online coach and you've got 150 clients, you're not going to meet them all face to face. I mean, one option is like we have here. We spoke about trying to turn this dining room into a podcast studio, and then my main vision for that is that I can invite my clients, friends, partners to come and sit down and talk with me, and then create a human connection. And what one motivation is, the primary motivation is it's enjoyable to meet people, but the byproduct of that is you will create a more loyal relationship. When you've looked someone in the eye, they're much more likely, if they've got, because we're all humans, right? We don't do everything right all the time at GrowFactor. We never, touch wood, tend to drop any major balls, like missing a tax deadline or, whatever else could happen. We have processes in place to make sure that accuracy is there. But, maybe someone's ill and they miss a Zoom call or something like that. If you've created a human connection and loyalty with your client, or maybe, you have a client and you can't get to a session because you double booked yourself as a PT when things were getting busy or whatever. If you've got no loyalty and human connection, your client won't allow for that.
I think that comes down to systems as well. Like when I first got into personal training and I was doing ungodly amounts of sessions just to kind of fill the diary, the amount of times, because I was working on old-fashioned diary back then, like the amount of times like I'd see one of my clients walk up and my heart would sink and I'd be like, oh, I remember that too. I've double booked myself. And literally I'd see them walking towards me and I'd know exactly what had happened, and it didn't happen that often, But when you're starting off, especially I think in the world of personal training, you don't really get taught any of this. There's no business model to look at. I started personal training 10 years ago, and as you said, so many people would say to me, Dan, like, it's great that you love the gym, you love training, you should get a real job.
Yeah.
And I just thought, well, what am I actually doing here? Like, this is going to be real for me. And it was, the fitness industry was such a different area 10 years ago. And, gym memberships were much lower now. You talk to anyone, they've got a gym membership now.
Yeah.
The industry,
for multiple gyms.
Yeah.
But what they meant, I think, is I've got a job that sucks the life out of me, so you should have one too.
Yeah.
People are like that sometimes as well. Like they'll see you live in your passion, and actually sometimes it threatens people. Even the people that love you might say something like that because they're subconsciously threatened by the fact that you could go and make a living, a really good living. We see some online trainers making 6 figures a year, multiple 6 figures a year, just from the one-to-one.
Yeah.
It's possible. But it threatens them, so it's a real job. Real job, yeah.
It was interesting because I remember really thinking about it and being like, are they right? And I just thought, you know what, no. I'm going to double down on this and I'm going to give it everything I can do. And because I think because my reasons to getting into that field were personal, it was about fulfillment, it was about delivering what I'd taken from my own fitness journey and giving that to other people.
Yeah.
My motivations for getting into personal training, although as you've said, financially it can be very rewarding, that was not my primary driver.
Yeah. My
primary driver was taking people. A little backstory, I was super skinny, really well developed in terms of sports, but I was skinny.
The opposite to me then.
Yeah. So I had zero muscle, but I'd represented Great Britain in a couple of different sports, and I just didn't have the confidence. I remember when I first started in the gym, I was like, I'm not wearing a vest. I'm too skinny.
Yeah.
Like, even though I was in the gym, which is ludicrous to me now thinking about it. I've done photo shoots, video shoots, all sorts, stood on stage in tiny little budgie smugglers.
Yeah. I didn't realise you'd competed actually.
Yeah, it was years ago. It was right at the start of the fitness modelling scene, and 2016 was my last competition.
Okay.
And so I really got into this area because I wanted to give that back to other people. I'd seen the development of myself, self-esteem, motivation, the way that my whole mindset had shifted from very limited, I'm not sure if I could do that, to actually anything is possible. And I'm kind of like a living, breathing cliche of the gym taught me so much about other areas of life.
Yeah.
I put that hard graft in, I got the validation, and then, okay, cool, I can double down.
Yeah.
Then I started to look at other areas of my life of where am I scared? Where is the hardship and what can I learn from it? Where can I push through? Because I started to notice that's when I got that momentum and double down into that momentum and be like, okay, cool. Now we're starting to move. I'm feeling uncomfortable here.
Yeah, you want it to be hard, right?
Let's go through it.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, that's what meant that I pushed through any of those times where how do I deliver more value to my clients? Rather than looking at it as how do I pick up more clients, was how do I better serve them?
Yeah.
When it came to online, how do I make sure that they're accountable? How do I make sure that they're learning from me? How do I make sure that I'm there as a support system for them? Yeah. And that for me is where I think online coaching, a lot of people have seen the financial success of it and gone, I'm going to be an online coach. Yeah. And they just don't have that back end of...
Yeah, they don't get the longevity then, right? I think there's two things from that for me. One is it has to be from your story. I mentioned to you, I'm doing a YouTube training at the moment, and the person I'm learning from is right. Like, your YouTube channel should be based on an avatar, but that avatar should be you. Like, ideally, your ideal client should be you, which yours is and mine is. Because I started that business, but you know what? When I met my wife, she had 100k saved, and I had 50k of credit card debt. Because I love to flash cash around. I wasn't very good at managing cash. I was great at spending money, but not good at managing money. Yeah. So over the last 10 years, thinking about my clients are mostly going to be like me more than Kiran. Not many people will have accumulated, 100K by 22, 23. She lived at home, she was a dentist, but she had this system where she would only spend money if there was spillover cash into this third bank account. Otherwise, she wouldn't spend the money. I didn't understand that cash flow system, which now we teach all of our clients, just called the bucket system. So for me, it's like, what did I go through? What did I need in my business to get from 0 to multi-seven figure? Like, I couldn't run my business without now weekly, because of the size of our business, financial forecast calls with my business partner, where we make strategic decisions from looking at the numbers. So like you're saying, I constantly, 24 hours a day, think about how can I add more value to my clients? How can we keep clients in the long term? How can they be raving fans? So as a business owner, I think we're very aligned. And I think that ones that get into, say, the fitness industry as a coach because they believe it's like an easy way to make money, they'll make money in the short term, but they won't keep their clients in the long term. There won't be that longevity, right? Because you do have to say, this is my journey and I'm trying to help people in the way that I help myself. But also, I understand that clients need to see value in the long term, not a short-term fix. And then the gap only then comes in, if you're doing those two things correctly, is do I have the financial and business skills to actually execute on my vision? Like, you've got the best intentions, you really have the right ideal client, it's you, but you need to identify and be humble a lot of the time and say, well, like, in my PT course or at university or at school, no one taught me these financial and business skills, so I need to get that bit. That's a gap somewhere. Massively.
I think as a PT, when I was freshly qualified, I thought, that's it, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, I've been handed the keys to the castle now, and that's it. But I started to look up. For me, I've always been very good. My brain works very logically. It's very analytical. I will break things down, look at points. And I think I started by looking at people that inspired me in the fitness world.
Yeah.
What were they? So, for example, when I first started, I wanted to get more muscular. Okay, so obviously this was before my PT course, and I was like, okay, these fitness models, people that I aspire to look like, what are they doing that I'm not? What systems do they have in place? What are they doing on a day-to-day basis? Because they've achieved it. So for me, I just saw, okay, if they can do it, why can't I?
Yeah.
Like, not that
and
I'm special.
There's so much content out there now for free.
Yeah.
If you want to build muscle, you can go and get the routine of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Not saying it will work for you.
Yeah.
But if you're a new trainer, anything will work for you.
Yeah.
And similarly in business, like you said, if you want to know about email marketing, why not find someone you know is really successful and sign up for their email newsletter?
Yeah.
And then just watch the emails that come through.
Yeah.
It's clever what you're saying, and most people don't think about it, but actually you can get a lot of learning if you're resourceful for free.
And that's what happened, really. I kind of took that, and then once I started to take my business more seriously, started to notice the falls of where I was falling short,
Yeah.
Okay, cool, I can pick up clients, but why is my business not progressing? Like, I'm kind of stagnant now as a new personal trainer. Like, what is it that I'm missing? And I suddenly realized, like, I wasn't treating me as a business.
Yeah.
I was just a personal trainer. So I was like, okay, what can I do? Podcasts.
Yeah.
Audible. I started to look at other people then. I was like, okay, fine. So these people are now, I took that skill set and was like, okay, if I want to now grow as a brand, as a business, who am I looking at? And then I stumbled across Tony Robbins. I was like, okay, what's he doing?
Yeah.
How's he doing things?
Lots.
Started to look at the podcasts, listen to them, look at the guests he was, the mindset shift, how he was investing in not just the business side, the growth mindset, and how to develop all of that was just a natural transition for me. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna start pulling in more.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where I was like, I need to go online because I can get more people. I can help more people. And I think over the years, I started to then look at mentors, coaches, business development, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And a few years ago, it just happened to be just before lockdown, I signed up with my first business mentor.
Yeah.
And I was blown away. I was like, why have I not done this sooner? Because
yeah, people should have it from the start, right? For sure.
100%.
Some form of business coaching. And like what we do at GrowFactor is try and be almost like a hybrid. Here's my view on business coaching, right? If you're trying to get from 0 to 10K a month, I think joining a group program that's designed for that is great, because you can do what everyone else is doing and you'll still get from 0 to 10. But my issue with group coaching programs after that is that the world of health and fitness is already so competitive. If you're sat in a room in Dubai usually with another 50 people at this coaching conference,
Yeah.
and you're getting taught strategies to attract, convert and deliver to clients, and those are the same strategies that every person in that room is going to execute, what do you think is going to make your business unique?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I get the benefit of the group, but I also think there should be some thought process around what we call strategic, or I don't call it, it's called strategic innovation, which is how can we get ourselves out of what we call a red ocean, where everyone is doing the same thing and no one can differentiate us as a PT, into a blue ocean, like an Uber versus a taxi, where clients of our ideal avatar will choose us, they will seek us out. And you won't get that from doing the same thing as everyone else. The other thing about coaching is a coach can give you strategies, but because they're not financially qualified, they can't measure whether those strategies are actually working. So what if you had approached it this way, which is my belief? First of all, set out your financial goals. Then reverse engineer, okay, well, these are my financial goals. This literally means per week I need to do this. This many type forms, this many calls, this many meetings, whatever it is, depending on your business. If I know I'm having that many forms come through or that many Zoom calls, I know because of the conversion rate of my calls, I will get this many clients, and I know I'm on track to my goals. Now, your next question is, how do I get that many calls booked in? And then, like you said, you can either look at other people, what are they doing? Podcasts, YouTube channel, Instagram content, setting up ads on Instagram. Or you can go back to your mentor and say, I've set my financial goals, but I'm not quite sure what to do in what order. And for your business as a unique entity, they give you the 2 to 3 things to try. And business, like we spoke about, it's just try something, fail, measure the results, readjust the strategy, try it again, do a little bit better. And if you're not failing in business, you're not learning.
Yeah.
And then you'll find, like for you, the podcast works, right? That's your main way of talking to people. And if people speak your language, they'll go from the podcast to your social media, and then they'll get in touch with you. And that's awesome, and you enjoy it. So it's fine what you enjoy. But first of all, like we've been doing with you, establish your financial goals and understand your numbers. Understand the metrics that we have to track around the podcast, for example, and then the delivery of, or the transition of people from your podcast to your socials. Try and track that all the way through to when you get a new client. And then you can set targets over even the number of podcasts that you need to put out, or the audience figures. And just from, say, audience figures, you should be able to track right through to expected revenue increase.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It aligns with me and the way my mindset works perfectly.
Yeah, data driven. But most people, they want to just execute the strategy and then hope that the numbers flow as a result. Or most coaches will give you all these great strategies, but they're not holding themselves accountable to actually the numbers. What we try and do at GrowFactor is 3 things. We try and help you master your finances, which is have the right financial systems, understand your numbers, and have financial goals in place and a way to measure your progress against the goals. Minimize your taxes. If you are not living in Dubai and not paying any tax, if you're living in the UK, or you're living in a country where there is tax, you want to minimize tax, because then you've got more cash to invest in your business. And then the third part is actually have a strategic plan. And the way that I do that in my business, this is what, if you've got, people watching or people listening and they want to make a start, just set your financial goals for the next 12 months, break them back down into monthly goals. And if that monthly goal is to get from, say, 5K to 7K a month, how many clients is that? At what price point? Where do they come from? Like, what is your, what we call funnel? Is it that you put organic content out and then you send them to a type form? Try and work it right backwards to what we call first principles, which is, I need this many Instagram posts, or I need this many, and then, like, business should be easy. It shouldn't be complicated. You should be able to scientifically say, well, if I keep doing this every single day, in 6 months, my sales will be this.
Yeah.
But maybe to me that's easy and that thought process doesn't come naturally. But I just think there's a big flaw right now in coaching, and that there's lots of promises. And from what I've seen from people who've come to GrowFactor after being part of these sort of big group programs, is that it doesn't, a lot of the time, materialize in income increase. I think the community aspect is great. And I think that everyone should be part of coaching. But there should be some individualized advice as well in there.
I want to touch on something that you said earlier that I think is going to be really relevant for a lot of people. So you said that when you first met your wife, you had 50K's worth of debt.
Yeah.
How did you shift from flashing that cash, spend,
Yeah.
to where you are now, financial mastery, free of any financial worries? Because so many people, and I notice it now a lot more that I've had a little bit of an understanding on finances, that they're just spending money that they don't have, trying to live a lifestyle to impress other people that actually don't care. So how did you go from that to this?
I think it's two parts. One is a mindset shift. If you meet someone, you love them, they love you as a person, not because you're wearing like a designer t-shirt or whatever it might be. I still love material things. I say to all my clients, I build out my financial plan around material things. I love to go to the best hotels in the world. I love to drive nice cars. I love to live in a really nice house. But the difference is my mindset is now about fulfillment doesn't come from material possessions. I think it was a combination of not anything special I did. I just got more mature and I got older. I realized because I had a Porsche Turbo S. If anyone's into their cars, that's the fastest car you can get on the road. Proper supercar. People stare at you down the street when you're driving. And it became to the point where I would feel uncomfortable driving that car. I'm seeing little kids, like when I'm driving through Birmingham and things like that I know don't have that much money, and I'm driving through in a 200k supercar. I just felt like a dick, to be honest. And it didn't give me, I'm not saying everyone with a supercar's a dick, right? That's how I felt.
Yeah.
And what I realized is I enjoyed driving the car, but it didn't give me fulfillment. So my mindset shifted, right? From material makes you happy to material it's not an income generating asset. And I shifted. I read a few books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, things like that. And my mindset shifted around. If I'm putting in all this hard work and effort, right, to earn money, why would I want to go and buy a £700 Balenciaga t-shirt when I can invest that £700 in the stock market? Or I could run a Facebook ads campaign, or I could put it into a trust. One of the biggest things was when I had kids. Do you want to go and spend that money on yourself, or do you want to secure their financial future? Like now I make enough money, but my next goal is for my kids to be totally financially free. So they've literally got, say, 100k a year each for the rest of their lives. I've already saved that away. So if they want to be musicians, or they really want to try out and be footballers, so they can define their careers not by how much money they're going to make. So one is just maturity, and that came with a mindset shift and being with someone who appreciated you as a person. So you will have friends, and if you actually ask them why they like you, it's not because of the way you dress or the car you drive. And once you realize that, I think material things become less important to you. The second part was just managing cash. So the way that Kieran accumulated this money, and the way that we advise clients to accumulate cash personally and through the business is like this. You have multiple bank accounts, right? So your first bank account is your main bank account where your money comes into. You pay it from your business, or you get your salary and you put it all in there. And then you move money to another account called taxes. Let's assume most of the people listening to this are self-employed, or they have their own business and they're in health and fitness. You move your money across to taxes. If you don't know what should be in there, you ask your accountant. And you say, okay, in my main account, I always want to keep a minimum of, say, £5,000, because that's 3 months worth of my rent and bills. Anything above that, I move it into a third account. If it's a business account, we call it growth. If it's a personal account, I literally had accounts that said holidays, cars, house. And I would move the money into those, just like pouring water into a glass. And as the water gets to the top of the glass, you can start to pour it out into other glasses. Now, you can only spend money if there's cash. So I can only buy a Ferrari. I did have a bank account called Ferrari. I never bought a Ferrari. If there's money in the Ferrari bank account. Now, what people do now is they think, I want that thing. Oh, but I don't have the money. Oh, but I can go and get the money from over here. Don't worry. I'll just pay for it on a credit card and it'll be okay because I'll make more money next month. But my advice is not to do that. It'd be have a multi-bank account system and only spend money on that particular thing when there's money in that account. And so that's what Kieran does now. She has another bank account. She gets paid from GrowFactor. When the money builds up in that, I think she's got an account called Handbags. She will own, but she's really good. She shops on the high street, but she likes to have nice things sometimes. And she saved up money in this Handbags bank account. And last time we went on a holiday, she bought a handbag, I think it was £6,000. But she had the £6,000 in the account.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I'm not looking at that with her as a silly decision. She bought a Chanel handbag in Paris 4 years ago for 2.5K. It's now worth 8K. So we're talking about now, if you invest in certain things, they can appreciate in value, but they're still aligned with the things you want. So don't buy a handbag for £500-600 from Michael Kors, because that'll be worth 20 quid when you walk it outside the door. Keep saving. Go and get a Chanel one for 2K, take care of it, and that will appreciate in value.
It's really interesting because I think as I started to read more, Rich Dad Poor Dad was another one I read.
Yeah.
And I was very materialistic as a teen, and growing up, I just wanted everything. I just wanted flash things, nice cars, everything I just wanted. And then as soon as I read that book, it really instantly, everything just clicked for me. I was like, well, why would I buy something that is going to lose money? No matter what it is, no matter how nice it is, no matter how trendy.
You're trying to show your success and wealth, right? But there's always someone who's richer than you.
Yeah.
Always. My neighbours, 2 of them are footballers. Just think how much money they're on.
Yeah.
One of them's a Premier League footballer. He's probably on 100 grand a week, plus another 100K from Nike.
Yeah.
Like, you don't try and compete with other people. Let them walk around in £700 t-shirts if they want to, because to them a £700 t-shirt is like a £70 t-shirt to us, or a £7 t-shirt to someone that might be listening. So like, spend within your means and invest your money wisely. And even looking at a footballer, they could get injured at any time.
Yeah.
So if you look at the wealthiest footballers, like a Robbie Fowler or a Michael Owen, they started investing in houses, or Michael Owen's got horses, I think, while they were playing.
Yeah.
You know, I used to know Tyrone Mings. He's a very successful entrepreneur. He's got investments in different businesses and income coming in, which I know he spreads out. We call it asset allocation. We do this with our clients as well, where we're building up a cash reserve. We'll say, well, why don't we use that cash and invest it in different areas? And we'll have our fitness clients earn the money that they need, whether that's 5, 10, 15, 20K a month. The money that they need will be coming in from rental properties or stock market investments or dividends or other things. So let's just say the Instagram algorithm just dies overnight, or your account gets shut down, and that's your main funnel. One is, you shouldn't just use Instagram. Even as you know, you should obviously use podcast, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, spread your audience out. But you can sleep better at night because you know you've used the cash that you have earned and you've invested in other income generating assets.
That's really interesting. And that's one of the things that I implemented in a few years back. I started to invest in the stock market. I got myself a Vanguard account. Other firms are available. Not a sponsored little shout out there, but yeah, I started with a Vanguard account.
Yeah.
Just got a basic S&P 500, an emerging markets, and highest all dividend yields, which is like the top 50.
Yeah, because you're young, right? So like, your risk profile can be high, because if it goes down, it'll come back again.
Yeah.
But I know you spoke about the compounding. Tony Robbins does this thing about betting on a golf course. You could probably Google this if you wanted to see the analogy, because I'll murder the analogy. But effectively, if you place a small bet, but on every hole for 18 holes and let the winnings accumulate, it it gives you the example of compounding. If you're young and you're listening to this, and you have even 50 or £100 to put away, if you go put on Google compound interest calculator, put what you can afford now, and just forward it 40 years, you probably won't believe the result.
£200 a month yields over 42 years. I think it's 1.6 or 1.2 million.
Crazy, isn't it?
And your actual investment is, I believe, 400,000.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible.